Right now, the Pokemon trading card game is completely dominated by Dragapult EX. It's got more than a 30% meta share, and that's not even including the other decks, like Go, which are choosing to collaborate with this Phantom Diving menace. But there is one combination of cards that Dragapult players absolutely dread. It's not the brand new Lily's Clefairy EX that can one-shot their main attacker. Nah, that's fine. It's not the Dragon-slaying Black Kyurem EX. Nah, that card never worked anyway. It's Blissey EX with Monkey Dory. This is such an insane rogue deck. And beyond a small window of hype last year when Twilight Masquerade first dropped, it's been almost completely off the radar. Until now. Fernando Cifuentes, the current world champion, just took Blissey on an enormous run all the way to second place at Monterey Regionals, only to be stopped right before the finish line by the Australian GOAT, Brent Tonneson. I was so impressed by the list that I just had to try it out myself. So the very next weekend, I ran it all the way to top cut at a massive 70-player League Cup and just fell in love with the deck. I haven't changed a single card from Fernando's original build yet. I'll touch on that at the end. But first, I'll start by running through the 60 and then dive into a few of the more interesting matchups in the current meta. First up, the Pokemon. Obviously, we've got 4 Chansey. It actually really matters which one you use. Not only is this the tankiest option, having an additional 10 HP compared to the others, but it also has a genuinely useful attack, Lucky Attachment, which lets you accelerate an extra energy from hand. It is nowhere near as good as Technical Machine Turbo Energize, but I did find myself making use of it whenever I managed to whiff on the tool. And as funny as stealing a game off of a ridiculous lucky bonus would be, it's just not worth it. Plus, your bench is almost always full anyway. It's an unrealistic dream. 4 Blissey EX with an absolutely massive 300 HP for a stage 1 Pokemon. The ability Happy Switch enables the entire deck, and the attack return dealing solid damage and acting as a draw engine all in itself is just the cherry on top. 4 Monkey Dory. Blissey's Happy Switch ability may be what enables this deck, but Monkey Dory is what makes it worth playing. After Blissey survives a hit, you can pass around a single Dark Energy between all of the monkeys, healing up Blissey, drastically improving its tanking capabilities, and on top of all that, you're sending the damage right back to your opponent's board. 1 Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX. This is mainly here to help fix up a couple of otherwise troublesome matchups. Goldingo is completely walled out by the Cornerstone Stance ability, and if they choose to attack with the Dragapult half of the deck, then Blissey just wins. It also comes with the added benefit of a strong shred attack that can't be stopped by anything and can be used to break through opposing walls. Lastly, 1 Roaring Moon EX. I absolutely love this spice. I have always been a massive fan of splashing this guy into decks whenever possible. Nothing feels better than ending a game with a surprise frenzied gouging. Onto the supporters. We've got 4 Boss's Orders. Blissey EX's built-in card draw substituting our engine provides the flexibility to just spam Boss's Orders on key targets every single turn in some games, which is just about the best thing that you can be doing a lot of the time. For Arven, this is almost always the first supporter we want to play. There is nothing better than starting the game with Precious Trolley and Technical Machine Turbo Energize. And in the mid to late game, it's just nice to be able to cherry pick various tools and items. 3 Iono, you can never complain about some extra draw, and the late game hand disruption is vital in certain situations. 2 Professor's Research. Sometimes we want to just dump the hand and see a bunch of cards, particularly in the early game when playing Iono would result in giving the opponent more cards. 4 Pokegear. Due to the high counts of all of our other supporters, this lets us functionally pick and choose which ones to use each turn, although sometimes you can just whiff. 4 Ultra Ball. Maxed out counts here since it's our only way to search Blissey. 2 Nest Ball. We don't need as many of these since almost every game we'll be playing our A-Spec Precious Trolley. What an insane card. It fills out the entire bench with a single item that we can easily fetch with Arven at the start of the game. 2 Night Stretcher for a bit of recycling. Always happy to run a couple of these. 1 Earthen Vessel. We already play a high count of basic energy, but sometimes you do need a way of searching it out, particularly in games where you have no other way to make use of a turn 1 TM Energize. In these situations, it can actually be worth grabbing off of Arven over the usual Precious Trolley. 1 Switch. All of our Pokemon can attack, so getting trapped isn't a massive concern, but sometimes it's just nice to use for conserving an energy or moving an active Blissey given its enormous 4 retreat cost. 2 Town Store. This deck needs a stadium bump. Otherwise, you risk automatically losing to a turn 1 jamming tower. Given our high tool count, this is just the best option to run. And those tools are 2 Technical Machine Turbo Energize, This should just about always be your first attack of the game, by far the most efficient way to get that energy into play. 2 Rigid Band, giving Blissey functionally 330 HP, and in some situations even more. This is crucial for surviving a few key attacks, particularly Pikachu EX's 300 damage Topaz Bolt. 1 EXP share. Ideally, this can just sit on a benched Pokemon for the entire game to consistently preserve energy. And 1 Rescue Board, another way to preserve an energy if you have to retreat something from the active. It can also help with piecing together surprise Roaring Moon plays, since you won't want to put that guy into play until you actually plan on attacking with them. When it comes to energy, we've got 7 Dark to enable Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain as well as Roaring Moon, 2 Fighting for Cornerstone Mask Ogapon, and 1 Psychic in case we ever need to actually attack with Monkey Dory.
Alright, now for some of the matchups. Let's start with the most popular deck.
Dragapult is basically the driving factor for why you'd even pick up Blissey in the first place. Return cleanly 2 shots Dragapult while your opponent will be fighting for their life to stick any damage on your board. With a Rigid Band attached, Phantom Dive is only dealing 170 to the active. So if you can heal 60 off of Blissey with 2 Monkey Dories, it'll be completely fine to tank another hit. One thing you do need to watch out for is the Dusknoir variant of the deck comboing Phantom Dive with a 130 damage Curse Blast for an exact KO. This isn't enough to swing the matchup on its own though. As long as you have enough energy banked up on the bench to respond with a second Blissey, you'll be fine. In fact, it can often be worth playing it slow and using TM Turbo Energize twice in the early game just to ensure that your board is completely resistant to any big combos. At first, Gholdengo seems like a bad matchup. They don't care how tanky your Blissey is, they'll one-shot it regardless. But I actually think the matchup is really good. If you just start the game by using Turbo Energize onto Stone Ogapon and maintain the rest of your board as 1-prize Pokemon, you'll be able to chip away at their Gholdengos, and even if they use boss's orders, they'll only be taking a single prize. The most common answer here is for them to just try and attack with the baby Gholdengo's Strike at Rich attack. But this won't be a one-shot, and your Monkey Dory should be enough to keep Stone Ogapon alive. Alternatively, if they're playing the Dragapult EX build, they can try and establish that. However, due to the high boss count and the fact that we can start attacking as soon as turn 2, you can generally keep the problem under control by bossing up their Dracloaks before they can evolve. And if they do somehow make it to a fully powered up Dragapult, feel free to finish off any Gholdengos and transition into the Blissey game plan for an easy win. Although Terror Box has fallen off a bit recently, you can still expect to see it, but don't worry, it's a solid matchup. Their only real way of one-shotting a Rigid Band Blissey is with a combination of Pikachu EX and Jamming Tower. But doing this puts a lot of pressure on their resources since they can't even make use of Sparkling Crystal with Jamming Tower in play. They are fully committing to binning all 3 energies, and I wouldn't be worried about their Stone Ogapon walling you. There are enough monkeys to disincentivize them from actually attacking with it since the damage will bounce right back. And we play enough boss's orders to take prizes around it if required. Just make sure that you do keep an open bench slot for Roaring Moon if it seems like you're gonna run out of gusts, or if they're leaning into a solo Stone Ogapon board. Unfortunately, Gardevoir is a tough one. It's actually the deck that finally ended Fernando's run at Monterey. The combination of a Bravery Charmed Drifloon and Monkey Dory being able to one-shot a Rigid Band Blissey is really tough to deal with, and a good Gardevoir player will never leave excess damage on your board for you to use with your own monkeys. Though there are a few saving graces. Due to the high boss count, you could potentially starve them of Ralts and Curlier in the early game, delaying their setup enough so that you can take a significant prize lead. You're also almost always able to sneak a cheeky 2-prize turn with Roaring Moon EX at some point in the majority of games. I'd recommend keeping a close eye on their energy counts. Drifloon requires 5 attachments to deal the full 300 damage, so if you can ever strand a few on something like a Screamtail, they'll need to dig for Professor Turo's Scenario if they want to take that big KO. Alternatively, if they've exhausted Professor Turo's Scenario and all of their energy is dedicated to Drifloon and Monkey Dories, you might just be able to trap a Gardevoir EX in the active without any way to attack or retreat. Raging Bolt might be as bad as it gets. Great Neck can one-shot anything it feels like. They don't have an ability, so you can't really wall them, and for some reason, a few people are even playing this baby Koraidon. Thanks to weakness, it's a 1-prizer that can deal with Blissey in a single hit for just 2 energy. If you are unfortunate enough to hit this matchup, I recommend trying to force them onto odd prizes because it's probably going to come down to an Iono and a Prayer. You can also try and attack with Monkey Dory to disrupt them with Confusion, and conveniently, that 60 damage sets up perfectly for a follow-up KO from Blissey. Now, I haven't put as much time into these next couple matchups, but Archaludon is isn't able to one-hit KO a Blissey as long as you're playing around Relicanth and denying any massive Raging Hammer attacks. Plus, none of your Pokemon have 80 or less HP, so you are completely immune to getting donked by Pecharunt. Eeveebox also seems fine, since even with the Kieran tech, they still don't hit a Rigid Band Blissey's monstrous 330 HP. But make sure that you do keep your benched energy split up, as opposed to having multiple on a single Pokemon. Otherwise, you might just get cooked by an Angelite play shuffling all of your energy back into the deck. That'd be game ending. I am really high on Blissey right now. It's a ton of fun to play, does well into the majority of meta decks, and I would absolutely recommend it to anyone looking for a solid placement with an off-meta choice. But I don't think it can win a tournament, at least not in its current state. The Raging Bolt, and more importantly, Gardevoir matchup are just too unfavorable. And unfortunately, Gardevoir is really popular among top players who you will need to beat if you want to win the whole thing. However, I think these matchups are bad in the deck's current state. I've got a cooked idea that might just break the deck. I am willing to bet anything that nobody can guess what it is. Go ahead, try in the comments. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if this card has literally never seen any play in any form until now.